Hey, good folks, if this is your first time to my channel, what I do is I post content about my journey of discovery as a cultural and ancestral historian and genealogist. I interview people who help connect us to both the heritage our ancestors created for us here in the diaspora, as well as discovering and exploring our connection back to Africa. Also share a series called Front Porch Stories, The Recipe of Me, where we highlight the oral history our elders and ancestors passed down to us and how those ingredients make up the recipe of who we are. If you like this kind of content, then please subscribe, hit the notification bell so you'll be notified of up and coming content. Also, please hit the like button if you appreciate the content that I post and share it with someone else so that others may discover my channel as well. I greatly appreciate it and thank you very much. What's up, good folks? It's the Ancestry Chronicler here, Deshaun J. Gandy. I'm back at it again. Just wanted to stop by to just, first of all, wish everybody a happy new year, a happy 2022. Lord's willing, it will be a better year than the past year in every aspect of every area of our lives. We'll just try to grow and prosper and become better people. Um, can't ask for more than that. Um, I want to talk about something today, just real briefly. First of all, I want to give a shout out to my boy, Jay Cameron. He's a children's author. He writes children's books, and I picked up three of his books here. This is you see that there. This is Darren and Destiny from the Adventures of Darren and Destiny series. This is their trip to Ghana. This one here is their trip to the safari in Tanzania. And then this last one here was Darren and Destiny's their adventure to Tanzania and Zanzibar, the Spice Islands. So definitely check out my man Jay Cameron, his YouTube channel, Maximum Impact with Jay Cameron. Pick up the books. You can find them on Amazon as well. But I got my signed copy from him. So well worth it. Sat down and read them and really enjoyed them. And it's funny because it's written for children, but I read them and I learned a lot. I learned stuff about these places that I've never been there before. So, their adventures and what they explored and what they experienced was new to me. So, as someone who's not a child, at least at heart I'm a child, but, in other places I'm not a child in terms of age, I definitely learned something. So definitely go out and support my man, Jay Cameron, the Adventures of Darren and Destiny. Buy the books, share them with your children, grandchildren, nieces and nephews. Also, a great gift idea is to buy them and donate them to a library as well. So, when our black kids, our children walk into a library, they'll see books, by black authors about black people. So that's a cool thing. So I've been thinking about this, thinking about the new year and just what it means to means to me and what it's meant to my ancestors, especially those in particularly who were enslaved in this country. And as a genealogist, just been tracking some of the enslavers of my family, and with one family, one of our enslavers, I just wrote some stuff down because I thought it was interesting how they in 1826, one of my enslavers, in his the will and probate records, his last will and testament, he passed on to his wife a slave. One name I can't recognize, but the other one was Dickie, and her three children, William, Sally, Moses, another slave, Teague, and another slave, Albert. He passed them down to his wife in 1826. And 1831, 5 years later, his wife, she, in the will and probate records, she passed down to her executor. I don't know who the relationship of this lady to her is, but someone named Mary Ann Garland. And all this is in Charleston, South Carolina. Um, some of the same slaves, the names are mentioned, Moses and Ducky, which was Moses' mother. But the other two children, remember Ducky had three children. William and Sally aren't mentioned, so I don't know what happened to them. The slave, she also passes down the slave Teague, but then there's no mention of Albert. So you wonder where these other slaves went and what happened to them, and like just to see that the families were just divided and separated. You can just even go to, will and probate records and see this kind of information where slaves are passed down as inheritance and gifts and property. They said, I leave my slaves along with my furniture to my wife, to my daughters, to my son, and things of that nature. It's just, families were just split up, and this was in these three probate records of these people being passed down from a husband to a wife to us to what I'm supposing is a daughter, took place in just 18 years. So just within 18 years, you see a family just divided. Also, another one of my enslavers that I was tracking, who's in North Carolina, Nashville, Edgecombe County, in North Carolina. He, after the war, they went into debt. So when the New Year came, check this out. When New Year came, they had to pay off their debt, and so they sold the plantation, and they sold, I think it was like 20 something of the slaves, and to pay off the debt. And they took the money and they came down to Alabama. And that's how my family got, my dad's side to Alabama. And then you wonder, like, they didn't take the train. I mean, this was early, the mid to early 1800s. They didn't take the train. They didn't get inside an SUV or an automobile. And I talk about this in my last blog. You can check out my last blog, My Journey Through the American South, on ArianaDiaries.com. It's Ariana Diaries.com. Check those out. Really privileged to be writing for her as well. And so they got down there, and this was just to pay off. So with those 20 slaves that went to pay off his debt, before the enslaver came down to Alabama, those 20 slaves, more than likely, some of my family members were left in North Carolina and paid to whoever he needed to pay off, to pay off his debt, whoever he needed to pay off, they were given to those individuals. So, the family's just been split up. And so thinking about New Year is that it kind of has it's like two faces to a coin. On one end, it was an exciting time, and I say that very cautiously, because it was when Christmas time came, those slaves that were rented out or hired out, they were allowed that week to come home and be with family. So they tried to celebrate as much as possible of having not seen their family members. And I'm talking about the enslaved individuals, having not seen their family members for a whole year because they were rented out and hired out to other plantations, other people, other enslavers. So they would try to spend as much time with them within that week. And notice I say within a week, because we all know a week after Christmas is New Year's, and they tried to have a joyous occasion. They also tried to take the time while the enslavers were having their holiday festivities to escape, because they knew that what was coming in a week of Christmas was Heartbreak Day. We know it as New Year's Day. And it was Heartbreak Day because that day, the enslaver would take his slaves and he would pay off debt, hire them out to other plantations and other enslavers. And they weren't necessarily close by. Like, I'm looking at the records of these things. They were hiring them out and renting them out to people that were like just 2 hours away. up the state. And this is, remember, like this is before, automobiles came on the scene. So, you're not talking about, you get in your car and you'll be there in 30 minutes to go visit family or something like that. No, these were people were just taken away. And they weren't just necessarily just hired out and rented out. And when they were, the contract was for a week. So when they were hired out and sent away, um, it was for a whole year. And and not just that. What's also crazy is that hold on one second. I find it crazy is that they also had to pay off their debt. And the way they did this was that they would sell slaves. So the slaves would be taken to the auction block on New Year's Day, Heartbreak Day, taken to the auction block and sold away. And it didn't even matter the ages. I saw some records where some people were in their 70s and they were selling them away because they were no longer useful to them in the field, but somebody else needed a hand in the kitchen or someone to just babysit the children of the enslaved children while their enslaved parents were in the field working or things of that nature. Um, you know, so the ages didn't make a difference. And there's one story I read where, and if you get a chance, listen to the slave records, listen to the slave narratives. When you get a chance to hear the people who were formerly enslaved tell their own stories. This stuff has been documented and recorded. It's audio. Like you even hear them talk, hear their voices, and hear their stories. And a lot of it has been written down. Frederick Douglass and all these people, they wrote their stories down. Um, One mother, she was sent to the auction block, or her children were sent to the auction block. She was sold away, and she thought that she could have her children with her. And when they sent her to the auction block with her children, somebody wound up buying her, and then other auction enslavers came and purchased her children, split up her family. And she was just crying that they would just tell her, just tell me, where did you put my family? Just tell me where you're taking them. Just where you're taking them. So in hopes one day she could go and visit her family. And they never told her because they didn't want her to come visit. And that's just the way it was. You're not going to tell them, where your family is being sold off to. And so, her last words were recorded as, "Oh God, why? Just take my life. Just, just let me die." You know, um, and it wasn't even just necessarily at the auction block. Sometimes these exchanges on New Year's Day, on Heartbreak Day, took place on the side of the road, on the front steps of buildings, on front porches of plantation homes. The planters, as they call it, as you see them in the census records and things of that nature. Planters on the planters records. You see some of these sales took place right on their porches. And so Heartbreak Day, I mean, you're ripping families apart on New Year's Day, ripping them to pieces, sending them all up and down the American South. Some even went up north. And this was Heartbreak Day. And so they went from Christmas to receiving their family back that were hired out, rented out for the year to spend that week with them because they didn't know when the new year came if they would be together. And so they planned their escape. Some escaped, some tried to run away. So it's Heartbreak Day. And so for me, New Year's Day is here. It's coming tomorrow. Today's New Year's Eve. Thank God I don't have to worry about where my mother and my father's going to be. My brother, my two sisters, my in-laws, my wife, her parents, her siblings, my nieces, my nephews. But my ancestors, they did. And I'm still finding people who are my DNA matches in other parts of the country, other parts of the South, throughout the southern states, the southeast states, and and what I'm discovering as I'm looking up the records and I'm doing the genealogy and the historical research about it is, they got to those other places because they were hired out, sold away, or when the enslaver decided that he wanted to get Alabama fever and go check out the new land that was opening up down in the South. He took his slaves with them, and wherever they journeyed, they would take their slaves. And when they got tired of them, they'd sell them off, or, if they incurred debt, they would, do what they needed to do, sell them off to pay their debt. And so my family is scattered all over the place. And the only thing that's connecting us today, not a shared or collective memory, simply our DNA. So that's it. I mean, I don't want to be a downer, but I just want to give you the reality of what my ancestors had to face New Year's Eve, New Year's Day. And so watch night service, I mean, that just gives a whole different understanding to watch night service and why it's practiced in African-American churches. We weren't even sure if what the president, Abraham Lincoln at the time was promising, this emancipation, this proclamation of emancipation, we weren't even, sure if that was going to happen. So they stayed up late throughout the night in churches, praying to God that what he promised would go into effect on the new year. Something to think about. The history behind watch night service in the African American church. How it's linked to Heartbreak Day. Interesting. Alrighty. Hey, listen. I'm the Ancestry Chronicler. I haven't been on in a minute, so I just wanted to stop through to just touch up with y'all and just share some things. Just try to drop some history. Listen, I got some stuff planned for the new year. Really been working hard. Really been doing some research, interviewing families, peoples. I got some stories to tell of some great African-American legacies, some Afrocentric genealogy right here in this country that's going to blow your mind. Stories that needs to get out, that needs to be in the Smithsonian. I'm doing my part to get it out there. People are entrusting me with their stories. So hey, subscribe. Please hit the notification bell so you'll be notified of up-and-coming content. Also, if you like this content, click that like button. Give me the thumbs up. Holla at a brother. I got that business on, like, holla at a brother. And also, and share it with somebody, share it with other people so that they can hear the content, see the content, know the content, appreciate the content, and keep passing it on. I'm hoping that by the end of this year, this is 2022, I'm gonna be honest with you. I know you say, you can listen. I'm hoping that I'm looking forward to 1,000 subscribers by the end of 2022. Help me get 1,000 subscribers, and I'm looking to get more by the end of 2022. Let's aim for 5,000. Let's see if we can get 5,000 by the end of 2022. If I can get 5,000, if you can help me out, if you can share the content, like it, subscribe, tell your peoples about it, tell your families about it. And once again, we got some great content coming up. Alrighty. All right. Peace.